The unique selling point at that point was very difficult to establish.
What would you say was kind of your unique selling point then?
Death. Simple and straightforward. Death.
You know, people in this system would have the danger of dying. So how do you sort of implement that without people dying in the first few minutes of the game and thinking, I want my money back because I want to go home? So even how do you make death a sort of an enjoyable challenge in that respect?
One of the things that I've been most proud about being involved with to see how the game has evolved, how costumes got better, how plots got better, how monsters have got better.
I'm really pleased with, and I'm very proud actually of how we have evolved over the last 20 years to where we are now.
It's 20 years, but that's, at one time we were doing 6 events a year. But if you even forgot those 80 events, that's a lot.
So things like the rule system, certainly the first few years, changed quite gradually as some things worked, some things didn't work, realised some things were missing. And then you get to points where, like one of the first major rules reviews, which I think was around 2002, was the first time the modern CP rule system was kind of codified in the first kind of booklet, and all the little adjustments and things we sort of brought in and fixes came into kind of one being, and sort of that was like one of the big steps, if you will, and that's kind of, I think if anybody looked at that kind of rule book from that time, they would still recognise the game they're kind of playing today. Setting out to make a large festival game, I didn't think we understood the grasp of an overarching plot.
So I remember when I started, that there were big kind of main storyline plots that were running through everything, but they weren't as pushed to the forefront, I suppose, of everyone's kind of field of vision.
The introduction of the metaphysics of the world and how the metaphysics could be used to drive all sorts of interesting acts of exploration. The whole world itself becomes a puzzle, and if you can build everything from that whole world puzzle, then you've actually got a massive amount of consistency. And having that massive amount of consistency, people really warm to. We still kept the risk, the violence, the excitement, but people began to realise that we'd spent a considerable amount of intellectual effort in establishing a consistent world, and beyond that world, consistent planes that, as I say, could be explored, could be tested, and people could understand fundamental concepts upon which they can build.
It's becoming more active, transformative game world, whether it's Ritual or the College of Arms or the Celestial College. I think they're becoming more open to players leading into different directions.
You through, I'm using my will. You will come to me. We're going to have a conversation. It will be fun. I will pay you.
You know, the thematic is still the same. It's still high fantasy. It's still heroes. It's still telling tales of great daring and things like this. But what has probably changed most is the buy-in. You know, you kind of look around at this and it feels like a little living world now. It's no longer about the way we look at the game world, it's about how they look at the game world we provide. And that to me is probably the biggest difference and the biggest strength, is how we've managed to adapt to that need and deliver on that need as well.
You're not a pawn of the game, you're not a pawn of what we want to happen. It is very much a case that you will make things happen and we will deal with the consequences.
I guess one of the other changes we did that was significant for me was building props, you know, large props. We did very little of it really. We were given virtually a ritual circle at the very beginning, which we must have used for 10 years or something, or 8 years, before it finally fell to pieces. Then we had to make something else, and then that started us off really on a programme of, you know, building all these props that you now see.
Over the last 5 to 6 years, certainly the set pieces, the buildings that they've made, all of that sort of thing have really come on magnificently.
The sort of set dressing and the way the camps look seems to get even better.
So I remember, you know,
times when kit wasn't very good and things like that, and we would play a game, but people would drop out of character quite a lot, and that was that was just how it was. And now we're fully immersed. Kits are fantastic, camps are fantastic, and we're always striving to make things that little bit more realistic.
The big difference between CP and the events I'd played previously was the immersion, the level of detail in the game, the atmosphere.
There's a lot of better kit, there's a lot of better sort of camp dressing.
Yes.
That's changed a lot.
Yes.
It's
better
much more emotive.
Much better role play.
Yeah, the roleplay standards have gone up a long way.
It's a lot more grown up, it's a lot more complicated, but still fundamentally, if you turned up as a new character, you can interact without knowing any of these depths that we put in place. And therefore you can enjoy the game still for what it was, which is a high-risk combat-based system.
There is a large body of people bringing their great experience into this and their views and their kind of ideas, and possibly into sort of the question you might ask at the end is like, why do I like doing this? Well, I like being part of that kind of creative process. I like being part of that idea of sharing ideas.
The people that we have who volunteer to work for us, the amount of thought that they put into things, the number of ideas they come up with is absolutely fantastic.
Whereas in the very early days it was kind of the possession of 3 or 4 of us, it's now the possession of kind of 20 or 30 people in that respect, so you have to kind of be happy to let things go. But then celebrate the way kind of other people sort of add material to that your game.